The rain hammered the pavement. Detective Jack Stratton stared at the missing person flyer, the smiling face a stark contrast to the gnawing fear twisting his gut. Sarah Evans, a young teacher, vanished without a trace, leaving behind a distraught family and a town on edge. Stratton had seen this before, the fear, the uncertainty, the gradual acceptance that the missing rarely returned. A small town like Ashton didn't just swallow people whole. Yet here he was, facing a void that whispered of something sinister. Ashton, nestled amidst towering pines and shrouded in perpetual mist, held its secrets close. The Evans house stood on a hill overlooking the town, a Victorian mansion that had seen better days. Inside, grief hung heavy in the air. Mr. Evans, his face etched with worry, clutched a faded picture of his daughter. He spoke of Sarah's routine, her love for her students, her quiet life that held no room for such a disappearance. Stratton listened, his eyes scanning the room. Something felt off, a discordant note in the symphony of grief. Was it the forced calmness in Mrs. Evans' eyes or the way the neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, kept glancing at the old grandfather clock? This town, he realized, was a tapestry of secrets, each thread a potential clue. He visited Sarah's workplace, a quaint schoolhouse at the edge of town. The children, their faces etched with innocent confusion, spoke of Miss Evans with an adoration that tugged at Stratton's heart. Sleep offered no respite. Stratton's dreams were haunted by faces from his past, cases he couldn't solve, ghosts he couldn't outrun. The next morning he received a tip. A fisherman claimed to have seen a car speeding away from the old mill the night Sarah disappeared. The mill, a skeletal monument to Ashton's forgotten prosperity, was a place of whispers and shadows. The air hung heavy with the smell of damp earth and decay as Stratton entered the mill. He found tire tracks barely discernible in the mud, leading to a derelict shed behind the mill. His hand hovered over the rusty latch, his heart pounding against his ribs. The shed was dark, the air thick with the smell of mildew and something else, something metallic and cloying. As his eyes adjusted to the gloom, he saw it, a single high-heeled shoe lying discarded in the corner. It was Sarah's. Despair threatened to engulf him, but he pushed it down. He had to find her, had to bring her back. He searched every inch of the shed, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Just when he was about to give up hope, he saw it, a glint of metal beneath a loose floorboard. It was a locket, a silver heart engraved with the initials S.E. He raced back to the station, his mind awhirl with possibilities. He pulled up Sarah's file, his eyes scanning the details, and then he saw it, a discrepancy so small he had overlooked it before. Sarah wasn't a recent transplant to Ashton. She was born and raised there, her family moving away when she was just a child. He needed to talk to Mrs. Henderson again, the neighbor. She had been evasive during their first encounter, her eyes filled with a strange mixture of pity and fear. As he drove to Mrs. Henderson's house, a figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the path of his car. He slammed on the brakes, his heart pounding. The figure approached, the streetlight illuminating a face he couldn't forget, the stranger from the sketches. Stratton lunged, but the stranger was too quick. He melted back into the shadows, leaving Stratton with a chilling certainty. Sarah's disappearance was deeply intertwined with Ashton's past, and the stranger held the key to unraveling it all. He confronted Mrs. Henderson, his tone firm but kind. He spoke of Sarah, of the secrets that haunted Ashton, of the need for truth. As he spoke, he saw the walls crumble, the carefully constructed facade of indifference crumble, revealing the fear and guilt she had been harboring. Mrs. Henderson, it turned out, knew Sarah's family, knew the truth about their hasty departure from Ashton all those years ago. Sarah's disappearance wasn't random. It was a calculated act of revenge, orchestrated by the stranger, a man with a score to settle. The pieces clicked into place. Sarah, desperate to uncover the truth about her family's past, had returned to Ashton, unwittingly stepping into a web of deceit and vengeance. Stratton, with the help of Mrs. Henderson's confession and his own relentless pursuit of the truth, finally cornered the stranger, bringing him to justice and freeing Sarah from her living nightmare. The town of Ashton, shrouded in secrets for so long, could finally breathe again. But for Stratton there was no sense of triumph, only a weary satisfaction. If you enjoyed this gripping tale, make sure to follow our channel Infinite News and Stories and like the video for more thrilling content.